Welcome to this week's BitShares Dev Hangout. This recording is brought to you by the Beyond Bitcoin crew. We welcome all BitShares members to join us weekly and discuss the latest news, updates, and developments. If you'd like to participate in our next meeting, then please join us live on Mumble every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did you know the Beyond Bitcoin show now has a registered delegate? Please consider voting if you find our Hangouts or recordings useful. The delegate name to vote for is fuzzy.beyondbitcoin. Again, that's fuzzy.beyondbitcoin. The Beyond Bitcoin crew would like to send out a big thank you to everyone who's already voted and allowing us the opportunity to serve the BitShares ecosystem and our valued community members. So once again, welcome and please enjoy the show.
Today is Friday, August 7th, 2015. We are joined again by Bytemaster from Cryptonomex for another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout, where he will give us project updates on both the Cryptonomex side and the BitShares side, where he is the chief engineer. And then we'll open up community questions. As always, for those who are new to this entire little shindig that we have here, please try to stay on topic. Feel free to ask questions out loud or in the chat box on the bottom left-hand corner of the Mumble client, and I will try to ask them for you if you are uncomfortable doing so out loud. I will try to bring in different comments and questions, but I will try to keep them on topic. So just know that if we go over your question and don't cover it, it very well might be because of that. With that said, Bytemaster, I'll just go ahead and pass the torch to you and let's get this thing started.
All right. Well, it's been a busy week. We've been working really hard on finishing up the wallet details. For those of you who are attentive to the forum, you got a sneak peek of the wallet, and the feedback we received was very useful and encouraging. It seems like most people like the very responsive nature of the wallet. I myself am very pleased with how it's going. This past week, I've actually delved into full-time development on the wallet, on the GUI front end. So in the past I've said I'm not a GUI developer. Well, not anymore. Things are really progressing on that front, and I guess that's about all I have there. Our GUI team is growing. Xerox has recently joined the GUI team, so we've got a lot of people really trying to get this user interface responsive and clean and easy to use. So I'm really proud of the web guys and the work they've done, and I think this is going to turn into a beautiful product.
Is Kronos still part of that team?
Kronos is, yes.
And how many people were on that team? Do you know off the top of your head?
We've got James, Valentine, Kronos, SVK, Xerox, myself, Cass, and a few other people contribute from time to time.
That sounds like a pretty major force there. We got 7 people. That's a good force.
It's a lot of man hours in there, and anyone who says we're not working hard, there's a lot of people working on it, and it's coming as fast as those people can do it. To be fair, some of those people are part-time. Kronos is part-time. SVK is part-time, although it seems like he's full-time with the amount of work he gets done. But it's a good team. As far as the primary protocol goes, it's really stabilized. Not much has been changing at the protocol level. The most recent change there is we added a hash of the chain ID into all signature on the transactions, so that transactions can't migrate between different graphene chains. So that's a relatively minor change. The other recent change is we're limiting the number of signatures per transaction to 5. It'll actually be a configurable parameter, but we're going to set it at 5 initially. The idea being that if you need more than 5 keys to sign off on a transaction, you should probably use a proposal on the blockchain and have the accounts individually approve the proposed transaction rather than trying to pass it offline. So it doesn't really do you much good to have more than 5 keys in your wallet and sign it. All it does is spam the network. So if you're using this properly, you're going to need some type of coordination of all the signers. And with things like transactions as proof of stake and short expiration times on transactions, you want to get them into the blockchain and do your multi-sig signature gathering on chain. It also allows us to collect fees on every signature. So the more signatures and parties involved, we get more fees associated with validating all those individual signatures. So I think that's most of the protocol changes there. But yeah, we're continuing to run test nets. Our test nets are long-lived, operating at 1 second. It's very, very smooth. Anyone who saw the test network saw the 1 second updates. It was really nice.
So everything's looking like it's smoothing out now.
Yes. Things are smoothing out. In the user interface, I was able to issue an asset. So I create an asset, then issue it and transfer it. All that's working. I haven't played too much with the market functionality, but Kronos and SVK tell me it's working. So I'm going to be investigating that more over the coming weeks. But I suspect that the next 3 weeks we'll be able to reach feature parity and stability with the current BitShares wallet, and hopefully announce 30 days to launch once we're at that point. Basically, once we can import all the balances and do everything the current BTS wallet can do, that's when we do the 30-day countdown. And I think that we're probably about 3 weeks from a stable wallet that's a suitable replacement for the current one.
Well, it's good to hear that you guys are making progress and feeling like it's more comfortable. What's been the biggest problem? Maybe problem isn't the
biggest hurdle.
Yeah, the biggest hurdle. Thank you very much. So yeah, that seems like it's been the biggest hurdle. So was that largely one of the reasons why you said, okay, we've got everything on the back end. Seems like it's going pretty well. Now I'm going to start working and learning to be a front-end GUI interface type person.
Yep. I figure I can bridge the front end to the back end, and I think miscommunication between front end and back end was a source of slowdown. But now that I'm a bridge, it's really accelerated the development and helped us refine the front end a little bit better, a little bit more robustly.
How is it coming up to speed on the new front-end technology, Bytemaster?
I'd say that.
Does it reflect? Is it reflect? What is the toolkit that you're basing things on now, as opposed to
React.js?
React, that's it.
Yes, React.js is very impressive. I really like the architecture. The tools available today for web development are unlike anything I've ever seen before for web development. I haven't done web development in years. And the new layout and style stuff that we're using is easy to understand and work with. So I think if you can learn React, and the tutorials online are relatively straightforward, and you ask some questions, you can easily get up to speed. Z-Rock got up to speed in a week and is already producing stuff. I got up to speed and started contributing useful stuff in a couple of days. So anyone who is interested and knows how to program can probably get up to speed and make useful contributions to the wallet in less than a week.
Sounds good.
This is considering former programming experience, correct?
Yes, if you don't have any programming experience, then you've got to learn a lot of programming concepts. The JavaScript APIs are all asynchronous, and yeah, there's just a lot to learn.
But if you have JavaScript experience and programming experience, a week or so approximately.
Yeah,
cool.
If you know web development already, you can only do JavaScript stuff, then you're probably even faster than me. I had to learn all the scoping rules and the syntax rules for JavaScript as well. So it's a good framework. The architecture is clean. Right now, the architecture is kind of divided into two different ways of getting data from the back end. So we're working on standardizing that. But yeah, it's been really positive. I've enjoyed working with the web guys. I can't thank James enough for being able to help me out on Skype anytime I need it. So, people are very helpful in helping you come up to speed. So if you would like to contribute in that way, there's certainly brownie points to be handed out to anyone who contributes bug fixes. Even just reporting bugs is useful. So someone found an odd bug in the transfer field where if you did 0.1, it came up with an outrageous amount. So some kind of floating point issue. Those type of things, well, it worked for other amounts, just not that particular value. And those kind of things are hard to find without lots of eyes on it. So over the course of the next couple weeks, you'll be getting more and more glimpses of the wallet as it's maturing. And we will be launching DevShares 2.0, which will be a snapshot of BitShares. And if everything goes smoothly with the launch of that, then we'll go ahead and announce 30 days and BitShares does the same thing.
I was going to ask, well, first off, before I get into what I was going to ask, does anybody have any comments or questions regarding what has been covered up to this point? It's always important to make sure that I ask that, because otherwise we might move forward without covering something that somebody feels is important. Otherwise, I wanted to ask you, have you talked to John Underwood at all regarding any of these recent updates that he's kind of given a hint at on the forums under the John Underwood visit post, or thread rather?
John Underwood is one of the most persistent guys out there in seeking our advice and on his project. So Stan talks with him on a regular basis. But more updates will be coming from John in the coming weeks.
Gotcha. Well, Stan mentioned something about Mike Maloney on the forums this week, talking about the war on cash. And Mike Maloney actually, it seems pretty critical at this point in time with respect to digital currencies and, cryptocurrencies, because there is a difference, right? But it seems like we're in this place where a lot of these people, especially in the hard money crowd, see blockchain technology as having no intrinsic value, any value beyond that which, they see it almost like they see fiat. Only this is even more dangerous, because if the entire grid goes down, then this is a problem. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain about what your thoughts were if you had watched the video. Second off, the basic questions that might arise from at least my understanding of what he was talking about, and kind of get your opinions on it.
All right. So as someone who has been a hard money fan, gold, silver, as the only true money before getting into crypto, I understand where they're coming from. And it all comes down to governance. Whether your money's fiat or gold and silver or crypto, everything is going to be on ledgers. You're not going to be dealing with physical gold and silver coins. It just does not make sense in a digital world. Even if the bank that you're using has gold and silver on deposit, well, at the end of the day, you're trusting their ledger and their accounting to keep track of IOUs for the gold and silver. At the end of the day, if you have an IOU for gold and silver, that gold and silver can be compromised and the IOUs can be defaulted. Cryptocurrencies have the nice property. Fiat also has this property of it's an accounting ledger. No one can steal it. It can be backed up, and that makes everything more secure. You don't have the issue of physical gold or silver being compromised. But it introduces a new problem, which is whoever is governing that currency can create it out of thin air. And if there's no checks and balances, the result is a transfer of wealth from those who hold the currency to those who receive to those who get to decide where to spend the newly created money, which is normally governments. And without any checks and balances on that, fiat money leads to the funding of all the wars in the world. And without the ability to print money, wars could not be financed. So there is a direct connection between fiat money and war and violence because of the governance structure around who gets to control its issuance. A cryptocurrency, its primary differentiator from other fiat currencies is that the governance is software. The rules are defined. They are hard to change. And BitShares focuses on governance by the people who hold the money, whereas with fiat money, governance is decided by people who don't own the money. In fact, it's usually decided by those who are the most in debt, because the rich, they don't own money, they own assets, they own stocks, bonds, they have a high net worth, but they don't keep their money in cash. So if we actually had voting based upon who holds the dollars, the lower middle class Americans would be the ones that would have the majority of the voting power, because everyone else is they're investing in income producing assets, not holding cash. And the super wealthy elite, they only have a high net worth. They don't have a lot of cash. They have ability to borrow a lot of cash against their assets. Anyway, this is a long rambling rant to say that the value of cryptocurrency is in its governance model. Bitcoin's governance model is the rules cannot change, and there's a lot of value in a system where rules cannot change. But at the same time, we all know what happens to species that can't adapt. If you can't change with the environment, then you eventually go extinct. So change is inevitable. The challenge we face is making sure that all changes honor property rights, not arbitrary, and are done with the stakeholders' approval versus done without their approval. And that's what cryptocurrency gives us. That's what DPoS gives us. It gives us a accounting system that is trustworthy. You don't have to worry about centralized governments printing up new BitShares at will and spending them on whatever they like. And those who vote for the spending are the ones who are most impacted by the spending because they have the largest stake. So guess that's what it comes down to. Cryptocurrencies are just a more trustworthy, predictable form of government or governance than fiat currencies.
Bytemaster, along these lines, could you describe your perspective about the I think I posted something to this effect in the forum yesterday, but about the political aspects of all cryptocurrencies. I mean, we're all people and we have to interact with some technology, so there's always going to be a people influence. And the question is how can that be mitigated the best way possible to minimize? Because I don't think you can eliminate that influence of and make sure that the thing stays just and fair to everybody.
At the heart, every cryptocurrency is a group of people who agree on a particular philosophy. Initially, all those people are very much in agreement because it's a small community and they all came together because they agree. As things grow and the community gets larger and the currency grows in value, people start to have more diverse opinions about things. At that point in time, you need a system that follows rules that are the most universal, the least controversial. The more controversial, the less consensus you're going to have. DPoS is the best method I know of measuring consensus, of ensuring that whatever happens follows the consensus of the stakeholders. Proportional to how much they have invested in the platform. All other systems, it's like fiat money. The people who make decisions and all the political infighting is separated from those who are impacted, right? Bitcoin holders don't get to vote on what the block size should be or who the mining pool operators are or any of those things. They don't get a say in who can filter their transactions or who can enforce whitelists on Bitcoin. So you still have all the political stuff going on in every single camp, but only DPoS gives the people who are most impacted by the ability to control what happens. I don't like voting. I don't think that it's a good way of resolving issues, but it's the only way we have available. And because it's clearly opt-in, and there's a free market out there to create competing opt-in systems, what's going to happen is whichever system is the most universal, which probably means whichever system best protects property rights, is going to be the one that succeeds.
Thank you.
Well, this is something that's been close to me since I've been watching this debate on just simply the block size in the Bitcoin ecosystem, because we don't have all the tools here yet in BitShares, but I can see how all those tools would be extremely beneficial for something like Bitcoin, because like you said, the rules of Bitcoin don't change, or at the very least, it's very difficult to get them to change, where you need to have one of, the really big players pushing for that change. And one of the things that's always concerned me, and I don't know if it concerns you, but is that as these economies of scale hit and you have a further centralization of infrastructure and control over said infrastructure, unless Bitcoin changes algorithms or something to that effect, do you ever have any concern that it's going to become extremely centralized in terms of ownership and control of the network, and that do you see Bitcoin dealing with something like that?
Bitcoin is more vulnerable than DPoS to power outages and disruption of network infrastructure. If the hash power is compromised, there's a fire in one of the mining pools that takes out a whole bunch of hash power. or governments come in and they seize whatever these large factories are, because it's really easy to seize a factory or cut off power to these places. The Bitcoin network's high and dry. It lacks any mechanism to adjust the difficulty downward in any type of timely manner. So it's extremely vulnerable to that type of attack. I'd say it's kind of like Liberty Reserve or any of these other e-gold. It becomes possible for coordinated government effort to shut it down. Whereas with something like DPoS, there are no big servers that are required, and the cost to get a new network up and running and reach consensus is relatively cheap. You'd have to go and, the stakeholders can elect new witnesses if necessary, but you don't have these large central resources that once they're compromised, well, sorry, they've stolen the mining equipment. It's like the gold reserves of a 100% reserve system. Bitcoin is only protected, and you can only transact on Bitcoin as long as those reserves, that mining equipment, stays there and is functional. If those reserves are ever compromised, then the Bitcoin net freezes. Your balance is still there. Everyone can still see it, but there's no consensus on what to do. Someone would probably offer a proof of stake hard fork of Bitcoin, and then mining equipment would be out of the picture entirely, and Bitcoin would continue. Someone might even drop DPoS on Bitcoin and say, hey, Bitcoin holders, let's go to DPoS. Here you go. You got all your balances. We're up and running. But while those things are possible, there's clearly no consensus there. It should be interesting to see what would happen. But that's the primary difference between something that's proof of stake versus mining.
Well, I'll say this. This is one of the biggest things that I hear in terms of the negative aspects of Bitcoin is, I pay a lot of attention to the prepper and survival communities and the liberty movement. And you see a lot of these people who are hard money advocates. And you want to tell, some of them understand, well, a lot of them understand that you want to diversify and you want to have multiple things. But one thing I've noticed is that there's a huge pushback when you mention anything about cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency automatically becomes associated with Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin, one of the chief arguments I always hear against it is, what if the power grid goes down tomorrow? And I find myself thinking, well, it's going to have to be a worldwide thing. And but my question to you is, do you see those as legitimate criticisms of Bitcoin, and does BitShares have any of those?
It's not legitimate criticism. All financial systems depend upon the power grid, fiat and gold and silver, because almost no one would transact with gold and silver directly. They'd always use some kind of intermediary. And the vaults and the banks are not going to open up and allow you to withdraw your physical gold and silver in a grid down scenario. They're probably going to keep them locked tight. So people need a medium of exchange that's lightweight and low cost and easy to secure. Gold and silver do not meet those properties. And in a society that's poor and doesn't have a lot of gold and silver distributed, something like brownie points makes a better currency. Your local government starts doling them out to volunteers who help get things going, and people start accepting it as currency. It's just a way of keeping score. That's all money is, a way of keeping score of who's doing what in the economy and who should be compensated. And so every time it changes hands, I did something for someone else, and now you're going to do something for me and someone will do something for you, and it just keeps circulating around.
What that's, if I can jump in really quick here, what you're saying then is that money actually represents productivity, and that is the defining characteristic of money. And what you're discussing here is sort of a mutual reciprocity of productivity, being the social agreement by which people will exchange individually. But you absolutely must have that on a micro level, that people are agreeing to have this mutual reciprocity. Because if the grid does go down, people are just going to go to their neighbor and say, what can you make? And that's how society will reorganize itself. But getting back to one of your original comments earlier about how money is created, it is largely created by the production of debt. When somebody goes to a bank and they say, I promise to commit future productivity in exchange for that money that you're going to conjure into existence right now, that is, in fact, money is being backed by this future productivity, that individual has committed their future productivity. So if anything, the government is stealing productivity. They're not stealing money. The money just represents that productivity.
I would say that that's the main issue with fiat money. If you lend it into circulation, then the banks are doing it, not just the government, right? Just from a pure bank perspective. That's not sustainable in the long run, and that's what cryptocurrencies are different. They are not debt. So you need an asset to serve as money that is not debt.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's not call it debt. Let's call it future activity. That's what debt is. The thing about cryptocurrencies, which makes them non-intrinsic, is the fact that cryptocurrencies are very useful, and their value is basically in the value represented by the productivity, all the things you can do with a cryptocurrency that you can't do without a cryptocurrency. Now that's significant, but it's not necessarily tangible. Somewhere, somehow, you need to have a human agreement in there which is defining the money. And that's what's lacking in all cryptocurrencies, including BitShares. And what we've created, what we've developed is a mechanism which performs that exact same act. It's called Curiosome. When an individual creates their Curiosome, they are creating money in the form of intentions, what they intend to do in the future. Now, you'll notice that is also a form of future productivity. So we're not copying the debt aspect of creating money, but we're simulating it, and we're adding that mechanism to a cryptocurrency. The combination of the two will give people what they want as a currency which is readily acceptable, and it has all the mutual reciprocity that money has. So this is what I've been talking with Fuzzy about, and we want to bring this idea to the community and say, help us build this component. We can use it with all cryptocurrencies. They will become intrinsic, and then we can just get on with replacing the dollar.
Well, that's loaded. What are your thoughts on it, Bytemaster? I mean, we have talked a little bit, and Genesis and I have talked a lot about it behind the scenes, particularly with respect to the whole partnership thing that I've been moving forward with. So I guess what is your stance on what Dan Robles said, Dan Larimer, and do you have any input beyond that?
Well, I missed a key part of what he discussed with his system, so I can't comment on that without diving into greater detail. I'd like to keep this BitShares focused if we can.
That's actually what I'm trying to ask right now is in terms of, like, for instance, Dan said that BitShares doesn't have that place yet where you can essentially define that contract, or is that the most succinct way of saying it, Dan Robles?
Well, yeah, obviously you have to have there's all the talk about smart contracts, but there's always smart contract about what? Eventually needs to touch the ground and be something physical and real, an agreement between persons. So that's, yes, correct.
Well, this actually, because the reason why I bring it up is because this actually does cover something that, or it leads us into a direction that somebody on the forum was talking about with respect to the smart contracts, opening it up to enable people who are writing these smart contracts to gain a certain monetary incentive for doing so. So, for instance, if I go out and grab Dan Larimer's first smart contract and I start using that for my business operations, Dan, being the person who wrote it, gets 10% of the fees that come from that, and so on and so forth. So I guess like we're in this realm of smart contracts, and it's obvious that we're moving in that direction with, all the buzz about Ethereum and all these different things that are going on. But Dan Dan Larimer, Bytemaster, has told us in the past pretty much, smart contracts are definitely going to be doable here in BitShares. And it might be argued that they're going to that BitShares will do it better than other blockchains. So I'm kind of curious where your thoughts are in that area more than anything, Bytemaster.
All right, so I think this follows up with what Fox is also asking, which is about my opinions and the similarities and differences between pegged assets atop Ethereum and BitShares.
Sure.
So pegged assets are, at the end of the day, nothing more than contract for difference. They can be implemented on any blockchain. What differentiates BitShares from Ethereum is the confirmation times and the throughput, which means that an Ethereum smart contract will be able to produce something that's as stable as BitUSD. You're not going to get anything that's more stable without someone actually backing it and basically promising to redeem it. And I've been, and that doesn't matter what platform you're on. So what we have with Graphene is a blockchain platform and architecture that we can scale. That is, the transactions themselves are almost human readable. You can understand what they mean, and they're well defined and standardized, meaning everyone who's dealing with the bit assets dealing with the exact same contract, which makes them interoperable. Ethereum has many different smart contracts. They end up with some standards that emerge for different currencies and so on, but it's very general, and the price you have to pay in terms of gas with their virtual computation fuel is much higher to do very complex things. So I would say that the primary difference is that BitShares has standardized assets and contracts that are well vetted. Ethereum has many vetted and unvetted contracts out there. And so it's a little bit more confusion in the market, but a lot more flexibility in the Ethereum market today. As far as smart contracts go in BitShares, we have designs for it. We could implement it probably with a couple months worth of effort. It's just a matter of prioritizing the long tail of odds and ends that you'd want to implement on a blockchain versus the high value contracts that you need today. I can see that smart contracts with basically programmable, flexible consensus has a good potential to basically be a prototyping environment. And then at the end of the day, smart contracts are going to need to be standardized and implemented natively in order to scale in a sensible way. I mean, when you look at Ethereum and you look at their blockchain and you're just looking at their blockchain, you see here's some code and here's some data. What does it mean? You don't know. You have to execute it yourself. It's just a human looking at it can't interpret it without disassembling the code. And even, I'm not even sure disassembling's possible. So unless the contract's open source and then you evaluate it, you have to look at the individual data formats for all the different contracts. So there's no way for an outsider to know exactly what all that is unless they go to all the individual contract producers. And then there's no way of knowing how they all interact together. What makes one contract compatible with another contract in terms of managing funds or things like that. So there's all the interactions between things. At the end of the day, I think Ethereum is going to build up into a library of tools, and everyone's going to be using approximately the same scripts to do everything. So I think Ethereum's got really good marketing. It's got great flexibility, but they don't have a user interface as far as I'm aware. And it's going to be a lot more work. You know, someone posted something today that Ethereum's going to take years to get to where they want to go. And I believe it. They need to do a whole nother revision just to switch away from proof of work to some kind of proof of stake.
Well, that actually might be argued by some people. Speaking of that, there's a thread by a master of myself where he talks about Truthcoin talks about proof of work being, well, proof of stake is, and delegated proof of stake essentially have costs associated with them that are probably larger than what mining carries, among other things. But that was kind of the topic there too.
That's complete utter rubbish. The only cost that you have to look at is how many coins are you creating and what are you getting in exchange for it. And if all the coins you create go just to reimburse people for running a political campaign, then people are going to say, well, I'm not going to vote for anyone who's spending money on political campaigns. And nothing else will get done. So I think it's very clear that the only a percentage, and a small percentage, of the money that's printed or created is going to fund the political process. The political process exists in all coins, whether you're Bitcoin or Purecoin, and those costs are all externalized. They're not directly paid for by that. And it's because people make money by getting into political power. They want the influence for their other business. Those other businesses are the ones that end up fronting the cost of the politics. And the community members in their spare time. Blockchain doesn't have to pay for all that fighting. Blockchain only has to pay for the result of all that fighting, which is, after all this debate, we've decided we want to pay someone X amount of money to add some feature. That's all the blockchain has to pay for. And so now you're only comparing, well, Bitcoin and all mining, they have to pay for unsustainable make work. And they have no choice but to pay for it or be insecure. And at the end of the day, what do they get? They get consensus. We've already got consensus, and technically, if you're just going to compare DPoS to proof of work, the dilution is completely irrelevant. You can have DPoS with no dilution, in which case it's very clear that we're doing everything Bitcoin does with less cost.
This is actually how Play is doing it. At least the last time I talked to them, they are a DPoS driven model, and they are going to, I honestly think it has a little bit to do with our BitShares history. But they were like, we will never inflate the supply. So they have, you're right, obviously, but there are multiple different ways of utilizing delegated proof of stake to
Hello? You're back.
What I was talking about was the flexibility of delegated proof of stake. I mean, for instance, like Play. Play has largely, I believe, because of historical reasons, they've said, we're never going to dilute, we're never going to inflate the supply. As a matter of fact, we are going to be deflationary. So it's kind of interesting that you bring up that point, because I actually haven't heard it brought up for quite some time, and it's something that a lot of people talk about, the inflation model of BitShares, but it's that's still not delegated proof of stake. So it is very interesting. My biggest thing lately has been, we started out with this whole idea that there were going to be all these thousands of DACs, right? Like probably more worldwide. And that these DACs would be, built off the toolkit and all of that good stuff. And things have changed to a degree, but delegated proof of stake still exists out there. Where do you see that happening? Do you see a lot of customized delegated proof of stake? Do you think that's
Yes.
the route that you...
Yes.
Maybe I should have just asked that question, huh?
I can tell you that there's a lot of people that want to build blockchains that are not compatible with BitShares, in the sense that BitShares has this hard cap on its dilution rate. BitShares consensus, at least in these Mumble Hangouts and from others, is that gambling should not occur on the BitShares network.
And that's only for this moment in time.
Yes, BitShares is open. We don't have restrictions on identity. It has secure private anonymous transactions, whereas other chains think that that's the devil. That secure anonymous transactions enable extortion and kidnapping and things like that. So I don't think anyone in the BitShares community would want to remove anonymous transactions or want to add gambling or add more dilution or inflation. So it seems quite obvious that just like Bitcoin is not the one chain to rule them all, BitShares will not be the one chain to rule them all. BitShares has to make the wise choices about which way it goes and which features it adds and who it hires to fund via dilution. But other chains are going to come out that are going to have features that BitShares just cannot implement for political reasons. And those are going to differentiate things, be different communities. Now, fortunately for the BitShares holders, they are going to get a stake in everything that happens, if it's at all possible. So it's kind of like you win no matter what. You just might get diluted in some of these other chains. But I've always said I'd rather own a small part of something huge than a large part of something small. And so, BitShares becomes like a mutual fund. You own BitShares and you get the full potential of our technology.
Yeah.
And, when people like Underwood and Music and Play snapshot and launch and build things, it benefits BitShares holders. And it benefits, it causes there to be diversity of philosophy and ideas and different economic models, lots of different things you can do. So I can say that there's a lot of people that are looking to do these different things on different chains, and for which it's not even possible for us to say, we'll just do that on BitShares, because we can't. And that's just the reality. There are some things BitShares can't do, and so that leaves a opening in the market for other people to do stuff. But one thing BitShares can do is get a stake in all those other things, and that's unique to BitShares.
And that's kind of been an idea, a concept that I've been trying to toss around in my head too, is because I feel like we're at this point where BitShares is growing, and in terms of what we're going to be able to do, in terms of the connections that are being made and the network that's behind the scenes anyway that I see, it's constantly, there's more people coming into the fray. And like, for instance, with Quora, and talking to them about some of the technology they have, I find myself thinking, how do we get to delegated proof of stake to do these things? Because a lot of, I mean, delegated proof of stake itself, the way that at least graphene is, it's got separation of power. Separations of power is a pretty huge thing to me. That was actually one of the things that made me smile. So do you think that, how do you see us reaching out to these people? Do you see something like saying, if you can't politically share drop, maybe we partner in other ways that are mutually beneficial? Because you know me, I've been a big fan of share dropping from the very beginning. But at the same time, there have to be other things that we can approach different communities with. And there might be other chains that you know of right now that we could be approaching and things like that.
Well, I can tell you that BitShares benefits the more our protocol is used, because more tools will be developed and supported across protocols, right? So if Music creates a custom wallet, it's going to benefit us. If Play does great stuff, it benefits us. These other platforms might fund the development of smart contracts that we can move into our platform. Even if we can't do everything they're doing, we still get the benefit of all the development time. We get the mind share, we get the acceptance of DPoS, and the core technology that's common and shared gets bug fixed and enhanced across all the platforms. So the more communities and blockchains out there that can leverage it, the better. But we need to, I think BitShares needs to grow and evolve and have do as much stuff as it can, and do it well, while still allowing other people to explore other options for it.
Well, since you guys know me, I like to take a couple breaks and just let anybody know if they have any questions. Phenike here is saying, will we have Quora's atomic transactions for DPoS to DPoS chain transactions? Bytemaster, if you don't mind, I'll just plug this real quick. I'm talking to VBCS from Burst, and the Quora guys, and we're interested in talking to them a little bit more about that. I don't want to give you any yeses or nos yet, but I do intend on asking, because we have Crypty out there who's going to be like basically a dApp store. I always see BitShares as kind of like the giant marketplace where all these different tokens are going to trade. But anyway, to bring it back to answering from my side, and Bytemaster, do you have any input on that?
I think atomic cross-chain trades are
be honest now.
I'm trying to figure out the best words to describe it.
Interesting.
It's a technological curiosity. It's something that's technically possible, but not practical in the wider sense. It's kind of like saying, do you have a Morse code backup for your communication for the internet, right? You're not going to use Morse code over some slow protocol when you've got the internet to communicate. Cross-chain trading in that sense requires both parties to be online, active, and a lot of coordination between the different parts. The general concept is escrow transfers. And as long as you have escrow transfers combined with provable receipt or provable payment channels, it's possible to do secure trading from chain to chain. And that's all you really need. And ultimately, it all comes down to time lock. I send you money. In order for you to claim it, you've got to reveal the secret that allows me to claim your money, kind of deals. So I see a place for it. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be with their scripting thing, but it's not the way that most people will want to do exchanges. Most people probably prefer to use things like Shapeshift, block trades, meta exchange, things like that, to convert between things. It's low risk. Your money's not sitting on an exchange, and your counterparty is always there. You don't have to wait and find someone, is what it comes down to.
So it's almost more like almost like an exchange versus something with fiat gateway versus local Bitcoins.
Yeah, there's places for all that stuff, but I think escrow transfer covers the use case better than atomic cross-chain trading. I think it's an extremely small niche, extremely inconvenient. I guess I'd compare it to the old days of Skype, or where you have to do all the firewall punch through, and half the time it doesn't work. It requires you to have a client that's simultaneously talking on two networks. If you want to automate it,
too much. It just adds too much to it, to everything. It makes it, if keep it simple, stupid is the mantra, it's not doing that.
Right. Trust is good in some sense, in that the more trust there is in a system, the more efficient it can be.
Sure.
And atomic cross-chain trading takes the lowest trust route to things, which means it's the most difficult to use, it's the most expensive to use, and the least convenient to use. So that's why I think it's more of a curiosity than anything else. It's great for all the chains that support it, cool, but why do you care if you're going to get better prices and higher volumes doing things on an exchange versus trying to find peers and do it directly? Why don't we do trades on the forum person to person? It just doesn't make sense when there's a market with order books.
Well, this just generally, I mean, yeah, it does make sense. I do understand where you're coming from. I'm just trying, I've been thinking about certain things like this, and I like to bring them up here because whenever I'm stumped on something, that's why I ask questions. That's why we're here, because everybody here has different experiences and talents, and among all of us, I'm sure we can get pretty much anything done.
Hey, Bytemaster, I wanted to squeeze something in before we're wrapping up here. Roadscape started a thread about a week ago that I thought was really interesting, and it didn't get a lot of responses, and I haven't had a chance to respond to it yet either. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but he was talking about the faucets in graphene, and he had some questions as to how that was going to work at the beginning, and he had a bunch of really cool suggestions too, and ways in which one might go about beginning to program custom faucets. So I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how what you guys have thought of over there, and how you see that kind of unfolding as the chain goes live.
Yeah, anyone who's running the server software we have, which is our faucet, which is what you have to license, has a version of the wallet that when you go to create an account, the faucet, you check that you're not a bot, and potentially enter a CAPTCHA, and the bot will automatically create your account for you and pay the fee and sign you up. And it'll also automatically do the referral tracking and affiliates, so that you can divide up the on registration, who referred the user, who's the registrar is, and what the percentages are. And that server software is what we're providing and licensing to people like CCEDK and banks. Anyone, of course, is free to create their own infrastructure around tracking affiliates, verifying users aren't bots, and signing up people with a version of the wallet that's customized for whatever backend you have. And if you do that, then you can sign people up all day. If you use our software to sign people up, then we just ask, our licensing terms are just give us 50%. We provide the technology, you provide the user, we split it 50-50 is kind of how it is. It probably actually gets divided 3 ways. 50% probably goes to the affiliate who spread around the referral links. 50% goes to the other 50% is split between someone like CCDK and us, which means we get 25% of everything, and CCDK gets 25%, and regular users who are just passing links around to CCEDK or banks or any of the other people who've licensed the wallet from us, and we're licensing it to basically anyone who wants it and is willing to share with us 50% of whatever referral income comes in from using the system. So it's our way of funding development and generating money by providing the tools to capitalize on it. But it's a short-term benefit because anyone could create an open source alternative.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I saw that you answered something to that along those lines on a thread yesterday, and I'm assuming, I'm not a coder, but I'm assuming it's not a terribly time-consuming and difficult project to put together something that's open source, as you said. But I have another question. Have you guys thought about what if the fees for registering an account on the blockchain are going to be different than a normal transaction fee? I just started doing the calculations in my head and thinking, if it's a what did we say, 20 cents or something like that fee is.
Let's simplify, clarify this question a little bit. There aren't transaction fees. There are only operation fees. A transaction is a set of operations. So a transfer operation is 20 cents. A cancel order operation is 0. The fees are generally proportional to the amount of long-term RAM usage. So creating an account is going to be probably 20 cents. Not because it's that value, but because we have to create an account object and keep it around forever. So we don't want people spamming the network with that. And that's for creating a low-end account. Creating a high-end account is going to be more like $20. Those are quality names. So it's kind of like registering a domain name. You pay $20, you get a good name, everyone's happy. So those are going to be the prices there. Now, the people who are creating accounts, you have to be a lifetime member to create accounts, which means the only people who are creating accounts are those who have paid a $100 fee to become a lifetime member. So that's another aspect to that. All these faucets will need to become lifetime members before they can start signing up users and the like.
Yeah, I guess I was saying transaction, thinking a transfer was the term I was meant to say, but No, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of, well, if you've got that cost about what, $1,000 to register 5,000 accounts roughly. So I was just thinking that
But if you're a lifetime
faucets-
user, you're getting 80% discount.
Okay. So as a person who's running a faucet, you're getting 80% of the fees that you're paying to register other people's accounts back to yourself.
Yes, it just locks them up for a year.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Thanks.
So just to be clear, what we're giving our partners is more than just the faucet. We're also white labeling the system. So we're rebranding it. We're integrating deposit and withdrawal features for their exchange and a lot of other customizations to the wallet. So there's going to be the basic free wallet, which anyone can use and use in a secure way by cloning a GitHub repo. And then you can basically have your own private myusername.github.io, which has a static, unchanging representation of the wallet. In order for that to be compromised, GitHub would have to be compromised. Our general feeling is that GitHub's static pages are probably far more secure than any server that's running dynamic code could be. And when you're using that static website, all you have to do is configure the settings to point it at a full node. And you'll probably use any number of full nodes that are out there, which means that the full node could lie to you about the data in the blockchain, but it won't have the ability to get your private keys by compromising the JavaScript. There'll also be options to have a browser plugin as well, which would be a step more secure than cloning a GitHub IO. But by cloning your own wallet, it means you can access that wallet from any device you have and be guaranteed that the JavaScript won't change without you explicitly pulling in the latest changes from upstream. So it's basically every user gets their own ability to manually audit the code and upgrade their own wallet. We really like the ability that we have in our wallet to separate those two things. So, and that basic wallet functionality is free for anyone to use for personal use, no licensing restrictions or anything else there, at least with BitShares.
T-Bone NYC says, what is the incentive to continue adding features to the wallet or even continue providing it at all if most users were signed up by someone else?
If new users aren't coming online, the project's slowly dying. So your incentive to have a wallet is to find new users who use your wallet first. The other incentives are to do things like two-factor authentication, automatic backups, log in from anywhere. If you just use the static hosted wallet, you have to enter your recovery key, but you lose all your settings on every device because that's all stored in the browser. And if your browser cache is deleted, you better have your recovery key. And if you're doing something like stealth transactions, then the recovery key is not necessarily enough to get all your stealth balances out, because you also need to keep track of all the stealth transactions that you've imported manually, because we're not scanning every single transaction. That's not scalable. It's not viable. So if you want to have all that stuff portable between devices, then you're going to want to use a service provider that will keep your wallet encrypted on the server for you. And all those types of features, backup, password recovery, two-factor authentication, the things that actually make it easy to use are the types of things that you can charge a monthly or annual subscription fee to. And it's really easy to collect payment because it's a wallet and you're in control of it.
So a wallet provider should charge for features, T-Boone NYC says.
It's up to them to figure out if they want to charge for features or do advertising. There's so many business models, I can't enumerate them all.
So basically he's saying they're leaving it open to the open market. So the ideas will come from entrepreneurs. Is that correct then?
Right. Other people can create apps and sell them in app stores, and then just have a website as a way of attracting users to get their app.
So this would actually be something that they could have, that Crypto would be able to do a lot with. They could actually gain from, play, music, all of them could actually gain from signing up users in the BitShares ecosystem.
Yeah. So there's another question I'd like to address real quick.
Sure.
BitShares accounts have one name. The account name is the account. So you can't have multiple aliases for the same account.
And can I ask one last question, Bytemaster, please? And Genesis says, I struggle with the question, contracts about what, exchanging what, transferring what? Do you have any insights that you might be able to provide him? I mean, I have my
I don't know what is what.
We can talk after that.
Well, we could talk about it later, Fuzzy. It is nebulous indeed, but still, all this crypto activity sounds like this big thunderhead. It's like it's like this cloud, which is all this activity and all this rain and stuff is happening, but the lightning can't hit the ground, and until it hits the ground, it's just not money. It's a lot of motion, but something about it's got to hit the ground. It's got to represent productivity, and I think the music application is interesting because that's music. Listening to music is recreation, which is recreation, and it's sort of a proxy for productivity. But you still have to get down to the nuts and bolts of, can you bring it to the groceries? Can you buy groceries with it? Is somebody willing to work in exchange for it? And that's a pretty large gap still in my mind. And again, I want the best for this, and I'm just looking for there's this assumption, this constant assumption that people are going to bring their transactions here, people are going to bring their contracts here, but those contracts have to be an agreement between two people, and or for something, even on a micro level, and I'm not sure that's rational right now.
Every single token on a cryptocurrency network is a contract between two people. It's something that you can do. The rules of the contract are encoded. The contracts are enforced. All blockchains is the automated enforcement of contractual agreements among two or more parties. So a blockchain can be viewed like a shareholder agreement where everyone's in a common venture to achieve some end. And anytime you buy or sell that you're entering or leaving the venture. And then while you're inside, anything you do is all contract with parties. It's all exchanging value. It's as real and as tangible as stock in any company, as equity in any startup venture, small or large. It's real tangible. So trying to focus on, do I buy my groceries with it? Well, maybe you can. I buy milk with BitUSD. It's not something that has to be universal. It's just an economic tool among many. And it's just like different countries. Is euro not money because you can't use a euro in the United States at the local grocery store? No. You just have to use the right money when you're in the right country. Every cryptocurrency can also be viewed as its own distributed country that's without any geographical area. When
But
you're
that's
so
really
crazy.
that's really the problem. The euro represents European productivity. The peso represents Mexican productivity. The dollar represents the United States productivity, and it's these political boundaries which are constraining people from exchanging among themselves. And that's the problem. It's not the solution.
the cryptocurrency represents a borderless productivity of a growing community. And the larger the community gets, it ultimately reaches a large status. But right now, cryptocurrency represents, all right, here's a small country with 10,000 people in it. It's not worth as much outside that country because, no one wants to go to that country, or, but the more people we can convince to immigrate into this country, the more purchasing power our currency has. So view it like a country, and it's like a small country. Small country money is not worth as much in the big countries, but
well, the function of a network is the core function of a network is people finding each other, and that's what I'm still looking for. What's the thing that's going to accelerate people finding each other so they can exchange this magnificent new technology?
I've got really awesome ideas.
Referral program?
And the referral program is part one, but I've got ideas that will be game changing in the next year.